التغيير ليس مستغربا.
لا استقبل.
لا عم بصير 7 أياد بشكل آخر.
Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on FutureTV. I'm Linda Tamim and these are today's headlines. A bushfire driven by hot winds forces the evacuation of residents in the Babda district as firefighters struggle to control the blaze. Lebanon's military investigative judge is seeking the death penalty for 11 suspects tied to last year's bombings in the northern city of Tripoli. And President Michel Sleiman chairs a largely boycotted national dialogue session, the last before his term expires on May the 25th. A bushfire driven by hot winds in the Babda district has forced the evacuation of residents and students as firefighters struggle to control the blaze. The fire, which started at around 8 a.m. in Bichay, sent smoke billowing into Babda's sky. It came amid hot weather and strong winds blowing on Lebanon. Temperatures were as high as 31 degrees Celsius in the early morning. Reports say firefighters were unable to contain the blaze due to strong winds. Units from Beirut later joined the firefighters in the area to assist them to battle the blaze, which spread to forests in Babda and Lu'ez. A helicopter was also deployed. One of the parking lots near Babda Palace was evacuated as a precautionary measure, and Collège Notre-Dame de Jamhour students were sent home after the fire approached. The army advised the residents to leave their homes to avoid smoke inhalation. Environment Minister Mohammed Al-Mashnouk urged municipalities and civil defense units to exert all efforts to douse the blaze. Lebanon's military investigative judge Riyad Abu Ghaida is seeking the death penalty for 10 suspects tied to last year's bombings in the northern city of Tripoli, including a Syrian intelligence officer. In his indictment regarding the August 23rd double-car bombing, the judge requested the death penalty for 8 Lebanese nationals and 2 Syrians who were accused of plotting the bombings. Former MP and Arab Democratic Party leader Ali Eid was also referred to trial for smuggling Ahmad Mir'i, one of the perpetrators of the bombings. He is allegedly the driver of the explosive-laden vehicle that blew up near Al Taqwa Mosque. President Michel Sleiman has chaired a largely boycotted national dialogue session, the last before his term expires on May the 25th. The majority of the March 8 and some March 14 parties boycotted the talks. Apart from Speaker Nabih Berri, no March 8 representatives attended the session. Hezbollah boycotted the talks for the second time in a row after differences with the president surfaced over the resistance's role in Syria. The session concluded with participants emphasizing the need to continue studying the national defense strategy put forward by the president. They also called for implementing past dialogue resolutions in order to shore up security and stability in the country in a statement issued after the meeting, which lasted 1.5 hours. The statement cited the importance of the Babda Declaration in shielding Lebanon from regional crisis and called for the presidential and parliamentary elections to be held on time. Speaking from Babda, Progressive Socialist Party leader MP Walid Jumblat hailed the president for his service. With steady nerves and patriotism, he said, Sleiman succeeded in ushering the country through a critical phase, shielding it from tensions and affirming dialogue is the only way out of the crisis. Jumblat said history will do justice to Sleiman as he was fair to every political party. Tripoli MP Mohammed Kabada has urged Lebanon's cabinet to file a complaint against Iran over recent statements by Iranian officials suggesting that Lebanon is Iran's first line of defense. Kabada says the government should summon Iranian ambassador Ghazanfar Ruknabadi and inform him of Lebanon's objection to the statement by Yahya Savafi, a senior military aide to the Iranian supreme leader. At least 21 rebels have been killed in fierce fighting around Syria's contested northern province of Aleppo as rockets slammed into a government-held district in the provincial capital, killing 9 people. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights adds that at least 30 soldiers were killed or wounded in today's clashes in the province. President Bashar al-Assad's forces, backed by Lebanese Hezbollah militants and pro-government militias, have been trying to wrest as much territory in Aleppo from the opposition ahead of the June 3rd presidential elections. Government forces have been relentlessly shelling opposition districts with aircraft and artillery in recent months. Aleppo has been divided between government and opposition-held areas since rebels launched an offensive there in mid-2012, capturing whole neighborhoods and large sections of territory outside the city and along the border with Turkey. Sana news agency says rockets struck in Aleppo's residential neighborhood of Ashrafiyya overnight, killing 9 people and wounding several, mostly women and children. And coming up next, Nigeria's president appeals for international help to find the 276 abducted schoolgirls. More after the break. Welcome back. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has begun talks with Hamas chief Khalid Mash'al in Doha in the first meeting since the rival movement signed a surprise unity deal. The Palestinian leader flew to the Qatari capital on Sunday, where he met with Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad al-Thani before attending a family wedding. He then met the exiled Hamas leader, who has been based in Doha for more than 2 years after leaving his previous base in Damascus because of the bloodshed gripping Syria. Hamas spokesman Sami Abu Zuhri says the two leaders were expected to meet in Qatar to discuss the reconciliation agreement and how to implement it. 2 gunmen on a motorbike have shot dead a commander of Yemen's security forces in Sana'a, a military official said, adding the attack bore the hallmarks of al-Qaeda. Military police commander Muhammad Ghouza was shot 4 times while walking down a street in the center of the capital. The attackers managed to escape. Also in Sana'a, police say a bomb planted in a trash container exploded near a market, slightly wounding 3 passers-by. The attacks come on the 7th day of an army offensive aimed at clearing al-Qaeda strongholds in the country's south from the jihadists. Libya's deputy parliamentary speaker has rejected the election of the country's new prime minister in the latest political struggle to strike the North African country. Hours after Ahmed Maitik was sworn in as prime minister, the first deputy speaker declared the vote as invalid as a power struggle erupted in the assembly. After a chaotic session of parliament, Maitik was initially reported to have mustered 113 votes of the 120 needed under the constitution in a vote of confidence. But the second deputy of parliament, Salih al-Makhzoun, said Maitik had in fact clinched 121 votes, apparently after a recount defeating challenger Omar al-Hassi, a university professor. Nigeria's president has appealed for international help to find and ensure the release of the 276 schoolgirls abducted by suspected Boko Haram fighters amid criticism over government inaction. More in this report.
3 weeks have passed since their daughters have disappeared, and these families have refused to give up. 276 schoolgirls have been kidnapped since April the 14th from a secondary school in the northeastern village of Chibok by suspected Boko Haram gunmen who stormed into the school in Borno State, packing the girls onto armed trucks and disappearing into a remote area along the Cameroon border. Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan has promised to seek the release of the kidnapped girls and has called for international help to ensure the release of the schoolgirls. President Jonathan sought help from the U.S. President Barack Obama and also approached other world powers including Britain, France and China for help in security issues.
We promise that wherever these girls are, we'll surely get them out. One good thing that I'm a bit happy, and I believe most Nigerians are happy, is that there's no story that any of them has been hurt in terms of injured or dead. I really sympathize and express my empathy to the parents and the relatives and of course the guardians of these girls. But in terms of the security challenges, we are talking to all heads of states of other countries that we believe will be very helpful to us. U.S. is number 1. I have personally had a discussion with President Obama at least 2 times, and we requested for one assistant or the other, and some of their officials are normally called.
We have to cut this short now as we go live to Saifi, where Kataib Party leader Amin Jmail is about to speak. And now we move on with news around the world. In brief, government officials from Australia, China and Malaysia have met in the Australian capital of Canberra and pledged to continue their search for the missing Malaysia plane that disappeared more than 2 months ago. No trace of flight MH370 has been found since it vanished on a scheduled service from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing on March the 8th, despite the most intensive search in commercial aviation history. Top military officials from the Philippines and representatives from the United States have launched the start of the 2-week bilateral military exercises. Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief Emmanuel Bautista says the exercises are aimed at enhancing security ties between the two nations. Around 3,000 Filipino soldiers and 2,500 U.S. troops are expected to join the exercises, which will focus on military tactics, humanitarian aid, and disaster relief operations. A strong earthquake hit Japan, rattling windows and nerves, though there were no initial reports of major damage and few injuries. The 6.0 magnitude quake was felt across a wide area of the country, with the strongest shaking registered in central Tokyo. Ukrainian troops have engaged in gun battles with a pro-Russia militia occupying the eastern city of Slavyansk in an apparent escalation of a security sweep to bring the region back under government control. Elsewhere in the country, hundreds of pro-Ukrainian protesters have gathered in Odessa last night to protest against the release of 67 pro-Russian captured in the city's trade union. We have to cut this short now as we go live to Amin Jumayel, who's about to speak.
هذا الاستحقاق بالوقت المناسب. من هون نحن ما فينا نبقى ساكتين أمام هذا الوضع. من الضروري القيام بأي جهد بأي مبادرة حتى ننقذ الجمهورية. شعارنا اليوم هو إنقاذ الجمهورية من خلال إنقاذ الانتخابات الرئاسية. إنقاذ الجمهورية هو بده يكون شغلنا الشاغل، ولا يتم إنقاذ الجمهورية إلا من خلال إتمام هذا الاستحقاق بالوقت المناسب. فمن هالقبيل هيدا نظرا لأهمية هذا الاستحقاق من الضرورة تجاوز كل الاصطفافات، نطلع من التقوى. بدنا نقوم بسلسلة اتصالات، وانطلاقا من غدا سألتقي مع مجموعة من القيادات من كل الاصطفافات حتى نبحث مع بعضنا البعض بكل ضمير حي وبكل وجدانية كيف السبل للخروج من هذا المأزق، لأن هذا المأزق إذا ما استمر، إذا ما طال، بده يكون له تأثير مدمر على كافة مؤسسات وعلى مستقبل البلد، على دور البلد. بينما المنطقة كلها اليوم عم تغلي، بينما نحن كمان عم نواجه كل هالصعوبات من نزوح اللاجئين السوريين اللي وصل تقريبا لنصف عدد اللبنانيين، إلى الوضع الاقتصادي والاجتماعي نظرا لهالحركات الاجتماعية والنقابية بالشارع، وبالإضافة لمشاكل كثيرة بلبنان. حقيقة إذا ما أنهينا بأسرع وقت هذا الاستحقاق ما بعرف كيف بدنا نعالج كل الاستحقاقات الأخرى. فالأمور داهمة، أمور ملحة، الأمور تتطلب مبادرة سريعة من قبل كل المخلصين، من قبل كل الحريصين على مصلحة البلد، حتى نقدر نوصل لهالخلاص. بعد ما انسحب الجيش الإسرائيلي من لبنان تحرر الجنوب، وبعد ما كذلك الأمر انسحب الجيش السوري، بعد ما استقر الوضع مؤخرا عملنا حكومي واتخذ بعض الإجراءات من قوانين جديدة، من تعيينات، من خطط أمنية وضبط الوضع الأمني بكثير من المناطق. هيدي خطوة مهمة إيجابية، بس إذا ما استكملناها بانتخابات رئاسية منكون كل هالإنجازات هيدي راحت هدر، وما منكون حقيقة عم نفكر بمصلحة البلد. فمن هون نحن بنعتبر أنه هالمرحلة هيدي لازم نرفع شعار إنقاذ الجمهورية. هذا هو شعار المرحلة اللي نحن نرفعه كحزب كتائب.